I want you to stop and think about the biggest dream you have right now. That dream that feels almost impossible. The one that feels so far away that you don't even allow yourself to think about it. Now, imagine 3 years from now that your dream is your reality. How do you feel? Because exactly 3 years before I got into Cambridge University, I wasn't even a regular student. I'm not talking a straight A student. I wasn't a student attending school. I had missed years of traditional schooling, had huge gaps in my education. I was playing tennis professionally at the time. And 3 years later, I was going to university in one of the most esteemed, brilliant places in the world. I don't want to talk in this video about what I've achieved. This video is not about that. It's about what becomes possible when you stop letting your past decide your future. I found a way to reinvent myself completely in the span of 3 years, and I think anyone can do the same. Hi, it's Gabby. Welcome back to my channel. Today I will tell you a very personal story. It's the story of how I went from being a teenage girl who was skipping entire months of school, spending 8 hours a day playing tennis, to a girl who graduated from a great university. The story is definitely not about me. It's an example that no matter where you are in life right now, where I'm currently finding you as you're watching that video, you're far more powerful than you realize. And your life can change in an instant when you just dare to believe that more is possible. If there's just one thing I want you to take away from this video, never underestimate your ability to reinvent yourself. The person you are today is not the person you have to be tomorrow. That's your choice to make. And if you've been questioning yourself lately, feeling down, stay until the end. I think that this story can really inspire you and show you that something you thought was too far away from you may be closer than you think. I wasn't going to record this video, but there was the Jupiter-Venus embrace conjunction. I got this idea, it got to me. This is a story about possibilities. Thousands of brilliant people out there get accepted into Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, King's, MIT, wonderful places all over the world. And those are all brilliant minds. They can tell you how hard they work to get into those places, how much it took from them. My story is different, because it's a story of someone changing the entire course of her life so dramatically that the person who ended up at Cambridge was almost unrecognizable from the person a few years earlier. And that's why I really want to share this story with you. A little bit about me. I come from Bulgaria, lived here for the majority of my life. Up until I was 15 years old, I was playing tennis on court professionally. Maybe I was 14 and a half. So I was competing in national and international competitions. It was my whole life, my entire routine was around tennis. So I was waking up, going to bed with the idea of tennis. Usually I would spend between 8 to 10 hours a day training. And at the age of 15 and a half years old, I decided that I didn't see myself being a pro tennis player in the future. Out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, I decided I'm going to quit the thing that occupied my life for the previous 8 years, because I started playing tennis at the age of 7 and I simply quit. Why? To live for a foreign country, the UK, and my dream was eventually to attend a good university. The thing is, before quitting tennis, I really didn't go to school regularly. I went to school up until 6th grade, which is the beginning of middle school. After that, I was having only individual lessons with teachers, but really not attending them regularly because of the sport. So I wasn't even learning in a social setting. I was barely having exams because it was individual learning. There wasn't really much pressure to perform. And I was skipping specific subjects because of the idea that I was a professionally committed sports person, right? So I physically couldn't cover every subject or module required under the Bulgarian educational system. There was a point at which I had missed an entire year of certain subjects. One that comes to mind is history, because of traveling for tennis competitions. A lot of gaps existed in my education before I left officially for the UK to be in late high school. So I was supposed to go into grade 11. And when I tell you I didn't know any history, I really didn't know any history. I was focused on a few subjects before the UK. So those were math, Bulgarian, English, geography, and pretty much that's it. So I studied maximum of 3 hours a day, and then the rest of the day I was entirely focused on sports. And I know what you're thinking. There's nothing wrong with choosing sport as your path, and honestly, you're completely right. Many sports people miss out on school because of their passion or their craft. But with me, there's always a twist. 15-year-old Gabby decided that she's just gonna quit tennis and sports altogether, just like that, out of the blue. And it really wasn't out of the blue. I just knew that that wasn't going to be my career. And I decided to go to the UK and try to get into a good university and study hard. Honestly, I remember my parents and my coach, tennis coach, looked at me with that look on their faces like, what? Because up until the month before, I was playing professionally, competing, and I was taking it incredibly seriously. And suddenly, I'm telling everyone, guys, I'm leaving sports behind altogether, and I'm going to go live full-time in a country I've never lived in, to study International Baccalaureate or IB Diploma. You've probably heard of it. Without any proper preparation. Everyone around me was like, what on earth is going on? How is that going to happen? There was a feeling inside of me. It came from my higher self, God, intuition from above, from the universe. I knew that feeling was right. So never underestimate the powers that are guiding you on your path. There are powers that are not going to let you sway away from your divine path. You may be a little late, you may not get it from the first time, but you're going to get and find your path. The divine higher self made sure that I found my path exactly where I was supposed to be at the time. For me, that path at the time was go to the UK, and I started taking every possible lesson you can think of in all subjects 4 months before leaving for the UK. I took lessons for 4 months before starting IB, while having missed years of proper schooling. It looked almost impossible that 4 months were going to cover the years lost. And honestly, it was a risk. And when I tell you I was absolutely not prepared where I was going, I had no idea where I was going. If you've missed a long time of regular studying and suddenly you find yourself pursuing one of the most challenging, rigorous pre-university curriculums, the IB, because literally it's considered a very, very difficult diploma for high school in the world, your first thought is, this is crazy, this is not gonna work, and am I going to be able to handle this? And mind you, my family was making a big financial investment so that I can study in a school abroad, because I come from Bulgaria. There was a lot on the line here. I couldn't just go and do nothing with all of these resources being spent. I had to make it, or at least not fail. Let me tell you about my next brilliant idea. When you study IB, you get to choose which classes to take at standard level and others at higher level. Higher level classes basically require more advanced understanding. Grading criteria are stricter. You just need to be a lot more prepared and put in a lot more hours, in short. So a lot more effort, but you need to have a bigger foundation. I decided to take Spanish language at higher level. Yeah, do you know how much preparation I had for that Spanish language at higher level? I had only 1 year. Genuinely, I had studied Spanish with a teacher for 1 year before I chose it as a higher level class in the IB. And just for reference, the IB recommends you to have studied Spanish prior to enrolling at higher level. They recommend you 4 to 5 years of prior language foundation. So you're expected to reach near fluency if you want to choose it at higher level. So I saw the 4 or 5 years and I said to myself, okay, here's 4 or 5, here's 1 year. It's basically the same potato potato. It wasn't. It wasn't the same. Okay, because it sounds absurd that I only studied Spanish for 1 year before leaving for the UK, I want you to take a look at my papers. You can see that I took beginner's level. It's called Nivel Inicial, very, very beginner's language. And also, it was in January and February 2013, and I left for the UK to study IB in August 2013, same year. They're not going to stop you from choosing the class, but the chances of you not making it or getting a low grade are actually a lot higher. I was a teenager who never learned Spanish in her life, started learning it from reggaeton and Zumba songs, took a year of classes and decided to jump and take a leap of faith and take Spanish at higher level. The odds honestly were pretty much not in my favor, but I thought to myself, let's just jump right into it. Then and there I decided I'm going to work really hard. The first year of IB, I wasn't going out, I wasn't partying, I wasn't doing anything except studying. And in fact, a little bit of a nerd alert, I remember the school sending a letter to my parents telling them that they're concerned for my well-being because I wasn't doing anything aside from studying. So, okay, think of that what you will. And you know, maybe that's because unlike others, I had a lot of catching up to do. I was going back to basic concepts in math, trying to understand basic equations. So I needed to put in 3 times the work compared to maybe someone else. At some point in 11th grade, I'm maybe 18 years old. I'm 1 year into IB. We have to choose universities to apply to. I choose 5 universities as was allowed. So mine were King's College London, UCL, Warwick, LSE and Cambridge, great schools in the UK. My parents said, don't worry, you're gonna make it, you will be fine. I was worried. I was genuinely very worried, mostly because of that idea that still lived in me. You know, that nagging voice, you're not prepared enough. You've been seriously studying for what, 1 year of IB and 4 months prior to IB. It simply didn't seem plausible to my mind that I was prepared enough. But I didn't let that get to me. I realized if I want to go to any of these places, then I have to give it my best shot. And I really gave it my all. Really, I gave it my all. I sacrificed a lot of free time, hobbies, friends to get my work done and be prepared enough. I remember the day when I got my Cambridge acceptance letter in in January 2015, and in October 2015, I officially became a student there. I cried so much. Like, I cannot tell you the feeling that I experienced. It was unlike anything else that I've experienced before. The main idea here is not only study or work hard and you will make it. I want to convey the following. You can be something that you've never been before and reinvent yourself anytime you want. Because very often I hear people say, oh, because I've done this my entire life, it's too late for me to change course. If you want to, if you set your mind to, you can change course at any point in your life. I'm literally the living proof of that. Not only I got accepted, but I went, and the girl who up until 3 years ago was playing tennis and thinking, I'm so far from academics as I can possibly be, it never crossed her mind she can end up in that brilliant place. That girl still managed to go to a place where there are brilliant people, brilliant minds, people who truly inspired me. The possibilities of reinvention are endless, because not only did I go there, but I graduated with a very, very high grade. It's called double first class, which means I got the highest possible grade every year for 3 years in total. Just picture this, the girl who was dropping subjects left and right because she was a sports person dedicated to her craft suddenly became a distinction student in that place. And I told you, I missed years of history, for example, history lessons. And as you know, history is very tied to the law. I had many legal modules while being at Cambridge. Part of my degree was in law. So I had zero clue of history, especially history of the UK, and I still managed to find my way and try to do well. I want to go back to the Spanish story. The Spanish class I took during IB. I got an award for that class, and I'm laughing because I also ended up getting a very high, the highest grade in that class at IB, which was 7. And I'm laughing at the irony because I had so much fear before enrolling in that class. I was terrified. I kept going to the teacher asking her, how am I gonna do? What do you think will happen? And I made it. Like, I ended up getting a very good grade. And this is my proof to you that you can study one thing for 1 year, put another 2 years in, and you never know what the end result is going to be. But you shouldn't let fear stop you or get you convinced that you're not gonna make it. No matter what you were yesterday, the story that you tell yourself about who you are, the story that you tell the world about who you are, that doesn't define what you can be tomorrow. Yesterday you wanted to be a tennis player, good for you, amazing. But tomorrow you want to be a Cambridge educated woman, and you go and you can absolutely do that. What makes all of that special is not the awards, it's not the grades, it's not the diplomas. It's special because if I had gone to any of these professors or teachers who gave me the awards at the high school or at Cambridge and who graded my papers, and if I had told them the truth, you know what? Up until 3 years ago, I wasn't even studying seriously or attending school regularly. I bet nobody was going to believe me. I know people who know since they were 10 years old exactly where they were going to end up, what career they had to follow, what they were going to study, and that's so admirable. I absolutely love this. But my life was nothing like that, and I honestly had no clue where I was going, and it's still aligned. Everything's still aligned because I decided and I put in the work. If you're feeling like you're losing your spark, or you're thinking, wow, I'm 30, I've never built a business before, I've never made proper money, or I haven't got an education, and I come from a background where I cannot afford to get educated in one of those schools, there is a way to get around that. I'm very aware that I'm privileged to have gone there, but information nowadays with technology and social media is just so accessible. You can go online, find online courses, Harvard, Cambridge, Udemy, Coursera, anything you're interested in, from makeup to trading. It can absolutely turn your life upside down. Well, what I see is that many people are really stuck in the idea of, I don't want to do that because I'm going to embarrass myself, or, you know, it's too late for me, or I've never learned any languages. There are audiobooks, podcasts, TV shows that you can use to learn a language. For example, I used Friends to learn English. That was when I was a kid. I feel like you just have to let go of the idea of being cringe or what will people say, and just follow your heart. And as long as you're breathing and living, it's never too late to change course. Just ask yourself, who do you want to be tomorrow? A practical tip. If I had convinced my teenage brain, that child brain of mine back then, adolescent brain, don't do this, you can fail, you can get embarrassed, you might fail and waste your parents' money, I would have never gotten the ability to try and to experience this journey that changed my entire life. But at the time, my teenage brain didn't even allow the idea of, no, this is not going to happen. There was no version in my mind in which this wasn't going to happen to me. So like, no version of failure existed back then in my mind. Fear existed, a lot of fear, people's comments existed, people's expectations, my own expectations, but my teenage brain saw no version of reality under which I do not get accepted into one of these places. And in my mind, I could only picture the acceptance, you know, it's going to happen. Not because other people didn't work as hard or I'm something special, definitely not, nothing like that. But I had a lot of faith. I took it all on hard work and faith. And that's what I'm trying to convey to you here. When you want to manifest something, Try to visualize, sit down and visualize that version of you when you were a child, when your beliefs were still not set in stone, and where you believed in miracles and in fairy tales. For example, I saw that movie Michael about Michael Jackson, and every time he had an obstacle or a trauma reappear, he would mentally take himself to Neverland, which is Peter Pan's magical home. So Michael saw Neverland in the book. He loved Peter Pan's story. And when things got tough, he went into his imagination, into his own personal Neverland. And as we grow up, many things happen. You know, trauma happens, family issues, health diagnosis, divorce, separations, life changes, friendships fade away, betrayals, life gets in the way. And we really forget how strong we are. We really forget. We focus on the negative and we find excuses why something will not happen. I really encourage you, try to visualize, go back to that version of you who was dreaming as a child. For example, I watched Pippi Longstocking building her own plane from scratch in one of the episodes. And I'll never forget being at my grandma and building my own plane for hours from a newspaper by cutting newspaper pieces. And my grandma told me, basically she scolded me, she was like, stop wasting my paper and creating garbage. And I looked at her with all the power in the world and I told her, Grandma, I'm gonna fly. I don't know if you realize that. And I was serious. That brain was still untainted from traumatic experiences, fears, limiting beliefs, people's expectations, people's opinions. That's how we are all born. You are not born with limitations or restrictions. You learn them through time, through people, through the negative things that happen to you. And the minute when you remember who you are and start dreaming, remember those beautiful beliefs you had as a kid when you were dreaming, and go back to that person who wasn't, taking no for an answer and who would absolutely lift mountains to go where they want to go. Because trust me, I was lifting mountains to end up at Cambridge. I was waking up at 6 a.m., having gone to bed at 4 a.m. I was sleeping 2 hours and I still kept on studying. I'm not saying do that, don't do that. But if you lift mountains and try to visualize and stop listening to the limiting beliefs, everything will start arranging for you. I'm so passionate about this subject and topic because life got in my way too. And for some time, I forgot that version of me who dreamt and believed that everything was possible. And by starting this channel and recording these videos, I am slowly getting back that version of me back. That's why this channel space and videos are so important to me, because they're healing me one way or another. This was my story. I want to remind you again, nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. It's not going to happen overnight. You're going to need a lot of discipline, courage, help, support mainly from yourself. But what you put in your own mind is what defines where you go tomorrow. And honestly, thinking about it, if someone had told me at age 15 that in a few years you'll be a Cambridge graduate with full distinction, I would have said, okay, sure, yeah, and tomorrow you'll see me flying around, with a dragon. It happened and it seemed like a dream, and identity is not fixed. The biggest lie we tell ourselves is that who we are today is who we will always be, and that stops you from becoming something else. It keeps you stuck. And I think it's time we start challenging that. So what do you think? Thank you for watching.